James, Jason, and Tracy, Maxine, Bianca.
Oh, Buffalo.
Finally.
Yeah. Well, we had some Cheektowaga folks, I think. That was near Buffalo. Yeah.
Oh, we have Yonkers.
All right, we're live.
Okay.
All right. Welcome. Good afternoon.
Yes. Welcome, everyone.
Our friends in Harlem, our friends in the Bronx. Hi, Jermaine. An elementary school counselor in the Bronx. Good afternoon, Jason. Good to see everyone.
Yeah. We're going to get started. Happy everybody joining us. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Hello, Victor.
Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started.
Oh, what's represented today, huh?
Let's get it started.
All right. Started.
Nice. Okay.
All right, we're ready to go.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're super excited on a Monday afternoon. We're going to try and keep this energy up after our Super Bowl and just energy, right? Positive energy. So thank you for joining us, for making your efforts count. We super appreciate that. I'm Kristy, and we're with Lisa, myself, and we're going to introduce the team in a minute. And, go to the next slide. Perfect. So, Gloria, you want to do introductions? You want me to rock and roll?
Well, this is our team. This is our Champ Camp 2.0 team, and that have developed this 5-part series. We're happy to be with you today. Most of us are here. I'm going to let Kristy and Lisa introduce themselves. First, the NISCA Executive Board, I wanted to mention, which advocates for school counselors at the state level and works tirelessly to develop materials to help school counselors and directors in the field. And also, I want to thank previous NISCA Executive Board members who continue to work on behalf of the profession, sharing their expertise. I'm honored to have been working with the Champ Camp 2.0 team, which is comprised of current and former NISCA board members, all working in the field as school counselors, directors, and counselor educators. We put our heads together and drew from our work experience to bring this program to you. Just a few words about the original Champ Camp, which was developed to inform school counselors and support implementation of the revised SED regulation on comprehensive school counseling program requirements. Many years of work went into this regulation revision to ensure it reflected our professional standards as established by ASCA. And it also provided additional information on what the regulation means, the guidance document did, and answered many of the questions that came to state ed's attention during the long regulation adoption process. All of these materials, which are important because they're what brings us here today, all of them and additional ones NISCA developed to continue this process are available on the NISCA website under professional development. In summer 2018, a team of NISCA trainers, much like this one, traveled to 4 locations in New York State to provide a full-day training on the new regulation. Through this training opportunity, NISCA was able to provide supportive materials, help answer questions from the field, and assist schools with the important process of evaluating and often redesigning their school counseling program. It was intensive and intense, and there was immediate demand for additional programs. It's important to mention that the regulation revision was based on ASCA National Model, now in its 4th edition. We can't overstate the importance of being familiar and knowledgeable with the 4 ASCA model components: define, manage, deliver, and assess your program. These form the core of your program development. ASCA also provides our students standards known as mindsets and behaviors, as well as our professional standards and competencies and professional ethics. Champ Camp 2.0, therefore, picks up where the first Champ Camp left off. The 5 programs in this series are designed to support full implementation of the regulation requirements. Word from the field helped us determine where school counselors would benefit from additional assistance. It's funded through the generosity of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. It's being recorded, and the recording and all materials will be available to all New York State school counselors. We host these things on our YouTube channel and on our website. Before I turn the program over to our presenters today, I'd like to ask you to consider membership in NYSCA. Even though you can access all of this as a non-member, your membership dues do help support all of our activities, especially advocacy at the state level. If you're not already a member, please consider joining NYSCA. At our previous program, we were talking about the development of social emotional lessons, one of the new requirements in the regulation revision. Today, we're looking at how to make your efforts count. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I'm going to turn it over to Lisa and Kristy.
Kristy, I'll just introduce myself real quick and I'll let you rock and roll. My name is Lysa Mullady. I'm an elementary school counselor in Copeg, which is on Long Island. And I have been a counselor for 30 years, and I am still charged and still excited and still ready to lead into new great things in my school, in my building, in my district. And I'm so pleased to be the VP for elementary, and I hope to help you wherever you are in New York State, inspired to work at your dreams and make great things happen for kids. Take it away, Miss Kristy.
All right. So hello, everyone. Hello again. My name is Kristy Lebron. I am a high school counselor at Gotham Collaborative High School in the Bronx. This is my 15th year as a school counselor, and similar to Lisa, very passionate about our profession. I am one of the New York City regional governors, so I sit on the NYSCA board as well. And we'll talk a little bit about involvement and all of that stuff, but I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy that you all are here, and hopefully our experiences and some of the hardships or what we've gone through will be helpful in terms of you developing your own program and moving forward as a school counselor. So let's rock and roll. Gloria.
Yeah, be sure to keep yourself muted unless it's time to answer or ask a question.
Yes.
Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. So let's call with us. What strategies have you used to make your efforts count? All right. What does that mean for you? What does that mean for you?
Or none. If you haven't used any strategies, or if you don't know what strategy is, what have you done? You can include whining and begging. That's absolutely acceptable.
Pouting.
All right, here's how to join. Go ahead, Kristy. Here's how to join the poll.
What? Yeah. These are the instructions. Yes. You can join this way, but there is no wrong answer.
I
just want to know where people are.
So you can text or you can use the web.
Absolutely, both ways.
All right, so everybody ready?
Let's do it. We just want to know where folks, where are you in terms of access and yes, strategies, written accomplishments, yes. Keeping records, absolutely. Flexibility, someone put that in the chat. Staying positive, awesome. Yeah, staying positive, especially in our day and of just technology. Collaboration, yes. Yes. And if you know how this works, as words are repeated, they will become larger. So collaboration seems to be the key one here. And that's good because it aligns with ASCA's model. Making yourself available, yes. Willing to learn, absolutely, absolutely. Being upbeat and okay with the next best thing, yes. Yes, adjustments. Thank you. Follow-up, yes, consistent follow-up, absolutely, Joanne. So true. Yes, having the right mindset. Open-minded, positivity, flexibility, bargaining. Yes. Breathing, as Catherine says. Assistance, yeah, not being afraid to ask for help. Being patient, checking in. These are amazing strategies. It does make your efforts count. It also speaks to self-care as well. Well, thank you. You can keep entering all of those in there. We appreciate that. That's super important. I'm sure that Lisa and I will also grab some from here as well. And in case there's something we're not doing or working with right now, we can learn from this experience, this activity. Thank you. You can keep participating. We can move on to the next slide. So again, it's about making your efforts count, right? And then, efforts are going to look different with different people in different places. And two important factors, right? Your words and your time. So we welcome you, your questions and concerns and your suggestions. Please don't hesitate to put those in the chat. We'll have question breaks. And we're going to get started with the daily word. And what will that be? Your mouth is a creative weapon, not a tool for executing excuses. #champions. Let that resonate just for a second as we move into the next slide. And this is meaningful for me, kind of brought me to a place where I needed to get to. And hopefully, if you haven't seen it, this will be helpful for you. If you know it, then bear with us.
Your mouth is a creative weapon. It's not a tool for distributing excuses. The first sign of a loser is an excuse. Champions take full responsibility, good or bad, for their outcomes. Tell the world one time what you're gonna do, and that's it. Spend less time talking and more time grinding. Think like a champion. Speak like a champion. And then walk it out. Grind 120 all day, every day. Stop making excuses. Champions make adjustments, not excuses. Every time you justify being average, you invite in the enemy. Mediocrity is a dream killer. Your coach, your trainer, your teacher, your boss is not the problem. It's your consistency. You gotta make a decision. How bad do you want it? Average is on the left. Success is on the right. You gotta choose which one you want. A champion's workout.
Next slide.
It won't let me. Wait a second.
See, you got to make adjustments. It just is what
There
it
we
is.
go.
There we go.
Oh, no, it wants to play it again. Wait a
Again.
second. All righty. Shit. Get out of my way. All right, we're back.
So welcome to Champ Camp Champions. We're already there, right? We're school counselors. We're champions already. And we hope that with our energy, like I shared before, with our information, we hope that we inspire you and encourage you to dream, right? With all of your mind, believe with all of your heart, and achieve with all of your might, right? Because it comes from your positive energy and from moving forward. We hope you feel inspired and you're capable of being a change maker. You can dig deep and put your time and make it happen. We're hoping to get you to that place.
I'm trying to make that other slide come up. I'm sorry. Technical difficulties. I'm not going to be able to do it, but there it says, welcome to Champ Camp.
That's fine. There we go. Yes.
All right.
You put all these systems in place so that we can move forward and things can be smooth, and then life happens, right? All right, so the next slide. All right, awesome. So we know that as school counselors, we're the front runners, right? We are the lifters.
Sorry.
We are the lifters, right? We lift others up by being focused advocates. We have our fingers on the pulse in our school communities, in our own communities, and in the field. So we know that we need to advocate for our programs, and we need to make sure that they have a focus, right? Advocate with focus and ensuring equity and access for all of our students. Gloria?
Ryan. It's got a mind of its own today.
All right. So we want you all to join the change train, right? So get on this train with us. Lisa and I have been running it in our own schools, and I'm sure many of you are in the field and making amazing things happen. ASCA says that we need to serve as advocates and leaders and collaborators and consultants. And yeah, we want to do all of those things, right? And we want to do it where things are sustainable. Our programs are sustainable, that they don't only survive with us. And we want to also be mindful that we cannot be all things to all people all of the time, right? And what does that mean? It means that you can't advocate for a student and advocate for a teacher if there's an issue at exactly the same time. You have to pick a side, right? And our side is always the side of the student. And then we figure out how to support our teacher and advocate for them. So that's just an example of how we can't be all things to all people all the time. Our students come first. Gloria?
Yeah.
So the key points for being a change maker. And when we talk about making your efforts count, we want to know that it's all about making change, right? So know your value, understand your role, review your data, be prepared with answers, and know your stakeholders. So there are a billion things that we can talk about, and we don't have a lot of time to be able to do that. So we wanted to kind of like narrow it down to both mine and Lisa's very different experiences, and try to give you something meaningful and valuable that you can, and sustainable and strategic that you can work with in your programs. So those are our key points. And we know that we're being pulled in all directions. Right now, we just want to take a little break. Is there any questions? Anything in the chat that we should be looking at?
Nothing yet. They're just introducing themselves still. And
nice. Thank you for that. Thank you. See, school counselors, we rock. For real. All right, next slide. So know your value. Let's talk about knowing your role, right? Next slide. Lisa, you're muted, my love.
Thank you. Now I'm really going to talk about knowing and growing. We are champions, and champion comes with time and training and dedication. You don't go to sleep one night and then wake up the next day because the magic fairy came over you and made you a champion. You become a champion by working really hard, falling down, getting back up, focusing and growing with your craft. We are all counselors. We are all here. And just by being here today, you're already committed. And that makes me feel fabulous. So some of the things you have to own and feel and be every time you walk into your building. You have to offer expertise. As the school counselor, we have knowledge and we have gifts to give. We are specialists in child development, the developmental expectations across the board, K through 12. We focus on reasons why kids behave. Why is that kid not attending class? Instead of just saying, come, we look behind, we delve deeper, and what programs do we need to get kids in school? What do we need to have kids succeed? And we see it from a very different eye. We are at the center of all that is happening. We're not in a classroom all day. We're not in an office all day. I hope you're walking up and down the hallways. I hope you're in the cafeterias, walking by the study halls, seeing what's happening. Look to see where there are problems, and you see those problems by being immersed in everything in the school day. We look for those patterns, look for those problem places, look for what is a consistent need that is getting in the way of our students having success. And we grow with our skills to meet their needs. Look at how much we've grown this year. We're even having a Zoom conference. 2 years ago, I wouldn't even imagine this, but we grow with our skills where we need to be. And when we put it all together, we lead and create sustainable change. Kristy said this before. We don't want to carry it on our shoulders forever. We want to start it, look at it, make a plan, make something happen, and then have it carried on by somebody else. We're the change makers. We are not the carriers of everything. And remember, we start small and grow big. This is where we want to be. I am grateful to be 30 years in, but a lot has happened in that time to give me the confidence. And when you start small and keep going, it is going to happen to you, I promise.
Next slide. So our second point of understanding your role, and in just listening to everything that Lisa has just shared with us, it comes with time, right? And it comes with experience, and it comes with troubleshooting and flexibility and all the things that were put in that poll. Next slide. Gloria. So we always encourage self-care, and this is going to be a theme throughout our workshop, where we're being mindful, and we want you to be mindful of just knowing that sometimes people just need to hear these words or see them so that they're available, right? Be kind, work hard, stay humble, smile often, keep honest, stay loyal, travel when possible. If you like to do that, never stop learning, because learning is growing. Be thankful always, right? We're offered opportunities, both negative and positive, that allows us to grow, and just love yourself, love your kids, love your community, love the work that you do, and show that in your passion. So just be inspirational as much as you possibly can. Gloria?
I might join in here and mention that where we have these inspirational real signs, we've included them in our handouts, which are all in the Champ Camp 2.0 file. So everything that we're showing, including a PowerPoint for this presentation, is available. I forgot to mention that before.
Good. Thank you. All right. Understanding.
All right. So this slide is developed by NISCA, by Gloria Jean and a team of people who helped create this so we understand our charge and our roles. I want everybody to know on March 8th, the next presentation is going to be how does your flow chart flow? And it will go more in depth on this multi-tiered support system. It is important for you to know your role versus the other roles of your teammates. And I wanted to speak to this. In my experience, my role changed knowing what I can hand off to another person. There was a time when I had to attend every CSE meeting out of district, taking me to another location, sometimes for an entire day. And I would walk back and the school would be in crisis because the kids who are used to the regular social, emotional things that are in place weren't there because I wasn't there. And our school psychologist team, our PBS team was not available to students. And it became a point where I brought it up to administration. My role in the meeting was very small. And I kept thinking, isn't there another way we can do this? Isn't there something else we can do, especially during annual review times where I sat for days and days on end and I couldn't interact with kids because I was sitting with a notepad. I continued to talk to my stakeholders and to point out the rise in discipline referrals, the rise in kids sitting in detention, the rise in problems within the classroom when the PPS team wasn't available. Eventually, through the years, by pointing out the data, we were able to change it to, I only had to go to initial referrals or referrals where I work with a student. And it was also changed. We no longer went to district. The district came to us and we met in our buildings and we were quicker with our meetings. Now we Zoom. But so there's always change, but this helped to know my role. My role wasn't to sit and take notes. My role is to be with the kids in the building doing social and emotional development. And so here I am speaking to understanding your role. And if you see where your time isn't being used in line with what the state sees, that's a speaking point for you and your stakeholders.
Gloria. So my experience as a school counselor in New York City, starting out in Brooklyn and then heading to the Bronx, similar and different, right? At the same time from Lisa's experience. And, you know, in my school, I like to consider myself the HSCIC. It's a little play on words from Joe Clark and Lean On Me. If you know what I'm talking about, but if you don't, you can just look it up, right? Because I'm not going to repeat it. So, awesome. Thank you, Nefertiti.
Yeah, I was gonna say she sure does. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, you know, that's how I rock and roll, you know, and it, you know, I don't know if it's a part of my personality or just the energy or just the passion that I have. But one of the things that is important to me is always to be visible. I'm always visible to my students and, you know, to our staff. Whatever opportunity I have to be present and to give input, I take advantage of that. I just don't mind my business the way that I should, but I feel like if it has to do with students, it is my business, right? So I'm always willing to support. I let people know, how can I help? You're having a bad day, how can I help? You're having an issue with the student, how can I help? I try to offer that support so that folks know that I am available. I don't always have the time, but I try to figure that out. And I let them know I'm a resource. I know things. I mean, I don't know a lot of things, but I know plenty, right? And if not, then I know people who know things. So let us figure this out together. And that's how I started building my program, is building my reputation and gaining more confidence. And just letting people know just who I am, right? Like I'm all about constructive criticism. You know, I come with a plan and, you know, and I have an opinion and it's all about what's in the best interest of kids. So different and the same between Lisa and I, right? Our approaches are just different. You know, our personalities are just different. But at the end of the day, we just have a different approach in terms of getting to our goals. So, you know, living up to the role of the school counselor, and, you know, I show in the work that I do, I identify my own role. I know what it makes sense. It makes sense for me within my school and my environment. Contemplate the role of the school counselor as it exists within your school, right? That's super important. Demonstrate your belief that all students have the ability to learn. Like, we need to figure this out together. That's always what I say. We need to figure this out together. It brings us to the next point, which is collaboration, both with administrators and teachers and staff. And many of you mentioned the same thing. And then explain the need for multicultural education. People don't know what they don't know sometimes. So if we are that resource, we need to sometimes provide that. And sometimes we don't know what we don't know. And we need to continue learning and educating ourselves. And we're doing that here by sharing information, right? Next slide. So bringing us back to how did I get from there to here, right? How did we get to this place? And one of the things that I do in terms of like lifting myself up is staying informed. How do I keep my finger on the pulse? How do I stay involved and I communicate? I use leverage leadership. If you haven't ever read the book, it's kind of old. I don't know how old it is now, but there's so many great things in there on how to operate within a system, right? How to be a leader. And when I wanted to do it, I wanted to empower people and inspire people. But, you know, that comes with certain skills, right, that I didn't have, right? I just said, you know, I was from Brooklyn. I just said what I had to say when I had to say it, you know, and that doesn't always fly right with people. So, you know, I had to be clear on my vision. I had to get the right people on my team, right? Whether we liked each other or not, whether we got along or not, if you are ready to rock and roll and I need you as a resource, then I need you on my bus. And if you've read that book, From Good to Great, then you know getting the right people on the bus is super important. I put a stake in the ground. I decide, like, this is what I want to do. This is my goal for the year. How am I going to accomplish this? I stay informed. What's the water cooler talk? Who's going to get involved? Who's talking about my program? Who's talking about the services? Who's talking about school counselors? And then, as they say in leverage leadership, You lather, you rinse, and you repeat. And you start your process all over again, because it's not always going to be successful, right? You learn from whatever your process is, and then you move forward. And I always ask myself also, like, what is my personality? Well, I know what my personality is, but how is it going to blend with others? What are my values? And what am I genuinely willing to implement? How much time am I really willing to commit to something? Don't be afraid to be a leader. Do not be afraid. I know that fear conversations can sometimes be fearful, but leverage leadership makes sense in terms of working with school counselors and supporting our people, our young people in our communities. Next slide. Keeping things in perspective, right? Asking yourself these questions. And this was a slide from Janelle Dickerson in social emotional learning. I think she got it from Castle Learning. What do I do to work well with people like me and people different from me? So, like, I'm high energy when I'm passionate about something and I'm firm, but when I'm going up against someone who has the same personality, like what tactics am I going to use to make things work, to get to where we need to get to? How can I understand others and respect where they are coming from? Being empathetic, right? Taking a step back and like, okay, so how does this support me? How does this support kids? Maybe that's more valuable than what it is that I'm trying to propose. What am I doing to make my school community a better place? I take ownership. Like, that I invest in this, that I contribute in making my school a better place. I try to ask myself those questions so that it keeps me really grounded. What have I done this semester, this marking period? What have I done to raise those, to raise engagement in online learning? And sometimes you do a lot, and sometimes the semester doesn't allow you to do much because you're doing other things, but being mindful of those things. Next slide. That goes back to self-reflection and personal biases, right? Identify and acknowledge, identify those around you who affect your personal bias, and self-reflect and check yourself. Nobody can check you better than you. Trust me. I look in that mirror and I'm just like, I messed up, man. I could have done this way, or I could have done that way. What's my next step so that I can remedy this situation? You have to acknowledge that. You have to check yourself, and then you keep it moving. What is it? Rinse, lather, and repeat. Lather, rinse, and repeat. All right, and we're going to continue with our stakeholders, right?
Yeah. So this is my principal, Mr. Buccello. Let me think. Out of 30 years, is he my principal number 4, maybe? No. Yeah. So we've been together for about 10 years, and I approached him and I asked him, what is the most important things that a school counselor does for us here in the building? He makes 3 points. We're just going to listen to a little bit of it. He talks about the importance of making connections. What we do day in and day out is getting to know our kids, getting to know our families, getting to know the reasons why things are happening. We communicate with team members, with teachers, with parents. We are the ones who get on the phone, make someone on the other end feel comfortable and want to join with us. And what we also he talks about is how we react when things get tough. There are kids that lose it. There are kids that are not in control at a given moment, and it is our skill to calm them down and to model that behavior for teachers and for everyone around us, that we can help kids regain control, be in control, so they can be part of the learning process. One thing I wanted to talk about before we see a little bit of Mr. Buccello is that my building went from 1,000 students in one campus, and the work of social and emotional learning and the team working together, advocating for kids, we really did a great job. And because our data looked good, we put together an offer to New York State, and my 1,000 school student building was split into 2 schools. And I was the counselor for both sides for a year. And after that, the work that I did as an advocate for kids was seen to be so valuable, they lessened my load to 500 kids. And now we're starting to be more in line with NYSCA and ASCA for our school ratio. And that is something that we are fighting for in NYSCA. Through the years of being an advocate and putting programs in place and helping kids with their behavior and helping with attendance and helping with all the foundational things that kids need to learn, whatever it was, food, clothing, mittens, I don't care what you need, pencils, I'm giving them to you and you're going to work. And they valued it so much that now we are the only building that has 2 counselors, and my caseload is now 250. I feel like I'm doing jumping jacks down the hallway after having a caseload of 1,000, waiting and have it go down to 250. I really see the potential of what can be done. I knew and I grew and I stuck with it. Does anybody sit there and go, way to go, Lisa, we did all this because of you? No, it's not about accolades. It's about the hard work that we do, knowing that it puts good things in place and students succeed, and seeing students succeed means the world to me. So here's my principal. He's going to talk about communication and making connections.
And
so how do we get to understand our students fully? I'm going to mention a few things right now, and they are, quite frankly, they're fundamentals. There's nothing new. There's no new buzzwords. It's the fundamentals and the foundation of who we are. Why we got
Whoops.
teaching and education and being a counselor. So when we talk about understanding our students, first thing I'm going to talk about is connection. You have to create a connection with your students. What do they do? What do they like? What are their hobbies? What's their life like outside of school? I'm going to tell you, I was observing a teacher earlier today, remotely, as the new world is, and primary teacher, super excited. She asked, all right, who's excited? Who's ready to go? And clearly one student was not excited, and he verbalized that. Miss so-and-so, I am not excited. I don't want to do this. She looked at him and she goes, you know what? If I drew basketballs and we counted basketballs, would you be excited then? He snapped right back into it, and he was right back in that lesson. He was excited and he smiled. That connection, seeing that that teacher knew what that student liked, what his hobbies were, she was able to redirect him in no time at all. And what could have been a was an extremely smooth transition, an extremely smooth redirection. Those connections run long and deep. You can rely on those connections in the classroom for lessons, in the hallway. If a kid's having a rough day, you can see him moping down the hallway. You can, on the playground, lunch and recess, outside of school, when you call the house to check on them. Students appreciate that, and they know. And
So here we are making the connections, and every effort counts. I love that my principal, Mr. Buccello, appreciates that I am an uplifter to the kids in the school and to the teachers and to everyone. Yeah, Kristy, I know I'm a little bit like Mary Poppins coming down the hallway, but in the elementary world, it works. And so we all fit into our roles. And it's important to know, even if you are Kristy or Lisa Mullady, we still say the things that need to be said. We still advocate for the kids. We have those hard conversations in the way that's comfortable for us, but we get the things said. We look at the data, we look at what needs to be done, and we speak the truth in whatever style your personality brings out.
yeah. Next slide. Okay, good. So we're going to talk a little bit about reviewing the data, and thank you for that little plug, Lisa, because it's true. We talk about this all the time. Lisa and I are complete, our roles are just, they're the same, and our experience is just so different. And here we are working together for the first time, well, our second presentation, and I've learned so much from her. So thank you.
Right back at you, Kristy.
Yeah, so reviewing the data, next slide. So this is what ASCA says, right, in our buildings. ASCA consistently review our data to reveal trends. We know that, we talk about it all the time, how important reviewing data is. And then find the inequities in student achievement, right? Where are the opportunities or attainment? Student needs revealed by changes, such as your school attendance, disciplinary problems, and academic performance. And I want to remind you all again, right, that we have these roles of being collaborators and advocates and, everything that goes encompassed into being a school counselor. But we cannot be all things to all people, right? We have to be mindful that we have to hone in on something, and then get evidence that this is or isn't working, right? When we're supporting our schools and we're supporting our families and our communities, because we can do a million things, and a million things they're not making changes, right? And that's what we want to see happening. We want to see changes, and we want to see changes in the data where it's important, where we can say our work is directly contributing to this. So if you want to focus on your school attendance, but that's an issue because there's so many disciplinary problems, and that's affecting academic performance, try to find something that makes sense within the three of those, right? That you see is going to change your data. And it might lift one up more than the other, but you're going to see gradually as you grow within your program and then within your efforts, it'll go up.
Can I speak real quick to our TNT room, Talk and Think in the Data in the Elementary? We developed something in my school called TNT, which stands for Talk and Think. It is a program that runs during lunch hours, and it began with a guidance counselor, but now it's sustainable because you have a school psychologist and a social worker, and you have other people that sit in there to be with kids during lunch hours. And it is kids that are invited for skill building, or it could be kids who are having disciplinary problems. And this is a very positive place for kids to be. And we put this in place and saw that attendance improved, discipline went down, suspensions went down, and even students who were having a lot of anxiety, who needed a place to go and to be connected. Remember, we follow ASCA, and one of the mindsets is feeling connected. And it's important for the kids. Some kids need you to be connected to before they are connected to the teachers and the school at large. So this place provides an opportunity for lots of kids, and was so successful that it has been adopted in other schools in district. Again, it was an idea. It was something we decided to do. I just saw Lisa, would you repeat the whole TNT? Well, we'll talk about that at questions. Is that okay, Kristen? Okay. We'll get TNT stands for Talk and Think. It doesn't mean you're in trouble. It means you're going to come in and you're going to talk out whatever's on your mind. You're going to think about how to solve your problems and think about the person who you want to be. Kind of like we're all thinking about who we want to be today. And so it's an opportunity. It's a low-key place for kids to find their best selves.
Yeah. And just to add on to that, right? Yeah. Just a little bit more about data. I understand how overwhelming data can be. I am more of like a hands-on kind of like, let's talk about it and just tell me, like, give me the numbers and that kind of stuff. And for a while, I was sitting on the safety team and the attendance team because I feel like I needed to stay connected and figure out a system on how I didn't have to look at all of these documents from all these people on all these different teams. And that came with time, right? Because what ended up happening for me was I started sitting on all these teams and sharing my feedback and giving information. And then it got to the point where I no longer needed to sit there. They would then come and bring me the relevant information where we can then support our school as a community. So if you're afraid of data or don't like data or are overwhelmed by it, figure out what works for you, right? Who are the key players on these teams that you can work with so that you don't have to sit on every single team, but you're still getting the information that you need to make sure that this is supporting your program and promoting student growth. That's it, Gloria. You could, next slide. You went too ahead. One more.
Yeah.
Go back one.
This is great. And I love how Kristy and we bounce back and forth, and our schools are different. And when we were creating this, I said, don't we need to look at our district's mission statement? It's really important to do this. And I pulled up Copiague Public Schools mission statement, and in it describes within the culturally and ethnically diverse community that is Copiague, the public schools occupy a unique position. Now, when I started, I was in one elementary school, and then for a brief period of time, I was in a different elementary school one day a week. And I found as if I was walking back in time. It was a school where teachers were above everybody and students were the lowest priority. And it was hurting my heart and my values because I was working hard in a school to make changes where the principal supported students coming first and valuing students and making it right for students. And I was speaking to my PPS director about my heart and my value. I didn't have a plan, but I was speaking to him about what I was seeing, my finger on the pulse. The kids are not learning social emotional skills. The kids are being pushed down instead of lifted up. So he came to see me one day and we were chit-chatting, looking out the window. And as we watched, there were two boys that started fighting. And it was a white child and a black child. And I said to my director, just sit and watch. As the lunch teacher comes over, the white boy will go play and the black boy will go sit down. And true to my words, the lunch lady came over, sent the white boy back, and the black boy went and sat down. And it was the beginning of a huge change, for a philosophical change on how we are going to approach kids from the bottom up. My idea was the lunch teachers need to understand how to manage, well, first of all, the equity of all students, how to manage conflict, how to de-escalate situations. And I offered to teach the lunch teachers during superintendent's conference day skills on how to be good problem solvers. I offered to teach the lunch teachers what they should do in situations. And after that was successful, then they eyed the one-to-one paraprofessionals that were working with students with disabilities so that they would understand how best to work with students with disabilities. And then on conference days, I would train the lunch teachers and also the one-to-one teachers. And as there was success in those programs and this district saw a change, it came off my shoulders, and the responsibility for teaching the lunch teachers went to the vice principals, the assistant principals, and then the one-to-one paraprofessionals training went to the school psychologist. So it began with me seeing COPEG. You understand we are culturally and ethnically diverse, but we need to raise everybody up. Here's an idea. Let's put it into place. Was it extra work? Absolutely. Was I nervous presenting to these people? Absolutely. But I found my words, I found my confidence, and I did what was right for kids.
Awesome. And my mission, very different, simple and to the point, right? The mission of Gotham Collaborative High School is to create an equitable learning community that ensures each student has access to the resources and support needed to reach their highest potential. And words we live by. You know, I can share a whole bunch of stories, but I don't need to because Lisa just shared her great story. But the work that we do has to connect to this. And then you'll hear from my principal in a little bit, and he'll just share with you, his role, his perception of our role in his school.
I made this slide to talk about defining your vision. We just talked about identifying needs from data. It can be, you go to the data after you're seeing what's happening, having your finger on the pulse, and then you go, hey, something doesn't seem right. Go, look at your suspension logs, look at your discipline referrals, look at the attendance, look at the achievement, go to your high school records, see how many kids are getting their Regents diplomas. Go look and see to make sure there's equity, access, and every child is finding success. Then tie it with your district goals, put it together, and then create your vision for change. How are you going to make it happen? What needs to be put in place? You are the champions. We are the ones who say, we can make this happen by doing this. It's your voice and your ideas and your team getting the right people on the bus.
Absolutely. Gloria? Oh, perfect. Perfect. Any questions? I feel like we've been answering them as we go along. But if there's anything quick you want to put in the chat or you want to give us some feedback, we can move right along. Think we're good? All right. We're trying to manage that.
All right. I loved in the beginning when we were putting in the cloud, what do we do to be positive change makers? When I sit in my bathroom, I look at this sign. This is actually a sign in my bathroom. The courage to start. This is what we hope to give you today. The courage to start, the courage to dream, the courage to think I can do something. And once it's in place, the strength to finish, the strength to keep it up and keep working at it, and through trials and errors, through flops, and then the resolve to finish. It is a process like Kristy was talking about, rinse, lather, repeat. It is what we do. We start, endure, and finish. Start, endure, and finish. And I liken it to training. I'm a runner. That's why it has 4:46 a.m. runner, because I'm out there. And this is how I find my personal peace. We as counselors need to come to school every day like a champion, ready to go. When I get to school, it is game on. Doesn't matter that I have my own personal stuff going on. Doesn't matter that I thought you were not nice to me yesterday. I have to put that aside and I have to find a way to work with you. I am game on, walking up and down those hallways. I need to know I am strong, I am ready, and I am focused. And my soul has to be in place. And I just wanted to share that I do daily devotions every day. I look and I sit and I ponder and I think, where do I want to be? Who do I want to be in this moment? Whenever I feel flustered or upset, I say to myself, who do I want to be in this moment? Do I want to be angry? Do I want to be reactive? Or do I want to be a change maker? And sometimes you need space and reflection to be the best change maker you can be. And I also wanted to put in there that this year I started meditating in my office and inviting teachers to come in. So we've become a supportive community through this stress where we sit on the floor and we sit down for 5 minutes. We listen to music. None of us know what we're doing, but we see each other and we connect and we talk about, okay, what's your struggle? What's your vision? Where do you want to be? This is what we do. We have to stay focused and you have to stay strong. We are champions. You have to be strong.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, now being prepared with answers. And we went back and forth a little bit, like should 4 be 5 and should 5 be 4? Should we talk about stakeholders? And so we just said, this is how we're rocking and rolling. And then whatever works for you in your school with your personality, take it and run with it. Next slide. So when I talk about being prepared with answers, and if anyone was on the last meeting with us, you know, I always talk, I mentioned the elevator pitch. I'm good for that because I need to get the vibe. I need to know how people are feeling. So I have like 1 minute with my principal in the morning just to see where his head is at and whether this is something that I need to revisit maybe another day or another afternoon. But once you have your vision, once you know, like I've looked at the data, I see that this is happening. I've seen the examples and I want to propose this. You want to have that courageous conversation in terms of making change, something that's systemic, right? Or systematic, whichever, you know, word you want to use. But ask yourself the questions and be prepared to answer them for your administrators. How will this get done? Is this sustainable? If you leave, will this program still survive? How much will it cost? Who's going to be involved? Who are your players? Who's on the bus with you? Who's rocking and rolling with you? How long will it take to get it up and running? Who's going to benefit? And if the answer is not your kids and your communities, then you're going to have a tough time. Just be mindful of that. Ultimately, once this program is said and done, who is it going to benefit? And I've done stuff where my goal was to service one specific community and it ended up servicing a very different community. But at the end of the day, it was servicing my families. It just took a different turn. And will it take away from instructional time? That's always so key because we know that our administrators, when we're proposing something, those are the questions they're going to ask. Next slide. And this brings us to knowing your stakeholders. So you have your vision, you're getting your people on the bus. Who's going to benefit from this? Next slide. Who are your stakeholders? So this was a slide that Gloria shared with us. You can copy it if you want to. She's open to sharing it with everybody. But she put it kind of like in a very easy way to remember, right? Your parents, your administrators, your community, your teachers, your students, and many of you might have other stakeholders, right? You might have your district offices. You might have very specific supervisors. You might have a community-based organization that works in your school or that you collaborate with. So just know who your key players are when you have your vision, when you're trying to put, bring your vision to fruition. Gloria?
All right, and talking about bringing your vision to fruition, you have to know your stakeholders. And before I talked about you grow, when you grow, I want you to always remember every moment of every day, every interaction that you have is going to ripple. It's like putting in a pebble and watching it go out. So every time you help a student, other students are going to know that you're an agent for good. That's what they're going to see and believe and put faith in you. And every time you help a teacher, the faculty will see that you are a team player. They're going to know that you're willing to work. And sometimes you might even work harder just so when you need them, they'll be there. And every time you help a parent, the community will speak to your willingness, your reputation will go out and they'll say, hey, give that counselor a call. She'll find the answer. You don't have to know all the answers. You just have to be willing to open your mouth and ask for answers and try to find them. And every time you help administration, they will understand your worth. And when it comes to asking for changes and advocating and saying, right now I'm having an idea outside the box, everything that you did prior to your asking is like money in the bank. So every thought, every word, your mouth is used for good. Your actions are used for good. Make sure you stay on focus and on point, and it will build and grow.
And away from excuses.
Yes. No excuses.
Absolutely. Next slide. Brain break. True school counselor, SEL fashion, right? We just need a pause. We have shared a lot of information, a lot of personal experiences. We have given like some, questions and feedback time, although we've been managing that throughout the whole thing. But, we want to take a little brain break. So put in the chat, can you answer this question for me? If you started spelling out numbers, 1, 2, 3, and so on, how far would you have to go until you found the letter A?
Everybody's going A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3. They're all thinking right now. That's why it's called a brain break.
Yes. So if you started spelling out numbers, 1, 2, 3, and so on, how far would you have to go until you found the letter A?
There they go. They got it. They got it.
We had a few takers. Where's everyone else? Who's still guessing? One? You're looking for the letter A. Good job. Yes, it's in the chat. 1,000. Next slide. Yes, the 1,000 is correct. So I have a whole slew of these. I got them.
Never Terry was counting.
It would have taken you forever, right? Yeah, I have a whole slew of these. I purchased them off of Teachers Pay Teachers, and I throw them in all of my activities when I do with my students. I like to take a brain break, a pause. Sometimes, you just need a moment to kind of like ponder something. So it keeps them busy trying to figure that out. So true school counselor, SEL fashion, right? Pause. Super important. We like to model what we preach. I forgot my zeros. Yeah. Oh, you meant to put 1,000, Mona. Okay. Yes. That's a way to pause. I always do that with either that or like a riddle or kind of like a joke or something that they can say I'm corny about, which is fine. All right. Moving right along. So we're going to show a video about someone, her name is the job doctor. She's an HR career person. Her name is Dr. Or I don't know if she's a doctor, but she's an expert in HR, and her name is Tessa White. And it was a video that I came across. I came across it on TikTok because I like to figure things out. I like to be in the know with my students, but usually it's really about cleaning and stuff like this. And then it led me to her YouTube page, and I thought that this was really, really important, because I know that oftentimes I've heard this from colleagues, like, am I being seen? Like, does my principal, do they know what I do? Do they know that I do all of this stuff? Do they see me? And she's gonna answer you in an HR very professional way.
Okay, I don't have a stopping point for this one, Kristy, so if it needs to stop, let me know.
Okay, I think that okay, I'll let you know.
I hear so often from people who say, all I want to do is make a difference at work, and my boss just doesn't utilize me or see me. So how do you get yourself seen by your boss? It lies in your ability to solve the biggest problems that exist in the company. If you think that just doing your job description is going to get you the attention you need, you're wrong. And in part, it's because you know who writes the job descriptions? Usually not the manager. It's usually HR writing it 10 minutes before they give it to the manager to post the job. So the job description isn't your guide. Your guide is, what are the problems keeping my boss up at night? If you spend time talking with your boss about what those problems are, and then within your world and your sphere of influence, you can help solve those problems, those are the people that get raises. Those are the people that get promotions. So you have to move from being a boss subordinate to being a partner with your boss. It's very different to just listen to what your boss says and do what they say. That's very non-accountable. I do great work when somebody tells me what to do. But if you can move from that to say, I'm a partner in solving problems with my boss, and I'm going to check in with them frequently and tell them what I'm doing to make sure I'm on track, and I'm going to ask them to help me even improve upon what we're doing, those are the people that get tapped on the shoulder for promotions. There's the other end of the spectrum as well. These are people who don't wait for their boss to tell them what to do. They're people who actually get all kinds of things done and never check in with their boss. You are mistakenly believing that by being really independent, that you are going to win the promotion game at the end, and that your boss is going to really value that. Although bosses value getting work done, it is equally important that you share with them what you're doing and that you manage up. I want to illustrate that in an example. I've made this mistake myself. I thought that our CEO loved me because he never had to come to me. Once he gave me something to do, it just got done. So of course I thought I was going to get the best performance review ever. But what happened surprised me. What he said was, I always know I can count on you to get the work done, but I often feel like I'm out of touch with some of the things that you're working on. I would like to know more about what you're doing. And I learned in that moment that managing up includes sharing the work that I'm doing and doing frequent updates. I thought it was a time waster, but it isn't. If you're able to check in on a regular basis, not only does it give you an opportunity, just like a year-end performance appraisal does, to share the good things that you're accomplishing, it also gives you the opportunity to have a relationship with your boss that's more one of a partnership. And I found that that was really important to moving my career forward. Especially women have a hard time thinking that they are somehow tooting their own horn, and that is not very appealing or not very attractive to do. Don't think
More?
No, we can leave it here. So I know that she talks about promotions, and I know she talks about, being a partner. And how I found this relatable, and I'll give you some examples, is that I don't see myself as needing to be a partner with my administrator, right? But I want to work collaboratively, right? I want to be invited to sit at these meetings and these tables where these decisions are being made. And that is only going to come from the perspective of my principal or my administration team saying, okay, she can bring valuable information. We are aware of the work that she does.
and marketing yourself.
In terms of promotion, there is no, I am going to be promoted, right? Because we're, especially from New York City, we don't really have that kind of access in terms of, unless you're moving on to an administrative position and doing something else. So when I think about it, yes, in the room when it happens, Hamilton. When I think about promotion, I think about that, right? How do I go from not being in the room to being in the room, to being invited to be a change maker and as a part of my administrative team? So that's how I resonated with this video. I hope that it was helpful. It definitely did bring me to a place where I was doing it all, right? And I wasn't sharing information. It was just me and my team, and we were making things happen. And then it was almost like, all right, so when accountability came, it's like, all right, where's your data? Where's this? Where is that? And you have to be ready to produce. Had I been sharing that information all along, it wasn't about me, proving my worth in any way, shape, or form. It was, we were already partners in a sense. So I just wanted to put that out there, and I wanted to share it with you. And I hope that it's something that also you can resonate with when you're working in a school, because as much as we don't want to say it, we are in the business, right? This education is big business. It really, really is, right? And, she might use the word promotion, and we might use the word, being an invitation, the phrase being invited to the room to be a decision maker. Next slide.
I just want to point out too, in the beginning when she said, solve your boss's problems. And so having our finger on the pulse and knowing what's happening is also knowing our administration's biggest concern. And when we are looking at that and putting our efforts in the same direction, we're problem solvers. It's smart to solve the problems that administration sees.
Absolutely. You can move on. All right. So now we're going to share my principal's thoughts. And he's going to share at some point, hear him speak, where, everyone's different. Our schools are different. Our districts are different. Some districts are more involved than other districts. Some schools just make their own decisions. And one of the things that worked with my principal, when I reached out to him and I shared, I said, listen, we're doing this workshop and I need to know, like, really where are these things? I know how to operate, but how do I put this into words so I can share with my colleagues? And one of the things he said, in terms of hooking him, I'm all about the elevator pitch. I really, really am. I grab him when I grab him, and I need to make sure he's in a good mood, and I need to make sure that my 1 minute that I have with him is important. And he said it, and he's going to say it again, student impact. How is it positive or solves problems? Low resources, what is it going to cost in terms of manpower and in terms of money? And is it already nesting? Is this something that I'm already looking at? Is something that I'm gathering data on? Like, am I already ready to present to him? That's important to him as well, because if I just want to throw an idea out there, there's billions of ideas. He wants to know that I've already started this thinking process. And then how do I convince him? It has to connect to the mission and vision of our school. It connects with our current strategies and our goals. I'm not reinventing the wheel. And it will be established structure that does not depend on one person to exist. So this is very consistent to what Aska has said, to what we shared earlier today in one of the other slides. In terms of answering those questions, you need to be prepared with this information. And we created those slides before I even spoke to my principal. You could also see the difference between my principal and Lisa's principal and the way that things are handled. And you'll see more of a difference coming up. Next slide. All right, so this is my principal, Mr. Lou, right? No office, he's up against the wall, he's rocking and rolling. Like, this is how we do in the Bronx.
You ready?
Yeah, of course.
Hello, everyone. I'm David Liu. I'm the principal of Gotham Collaborative High School. Thank you for allowing me to be virtually here at your conference. I'm here to just quickly lay out how to speak with a principal when you have an idea that you think can be very impactful for kids. I think whenever you're talking to a principal, you need to take into account that we have a lot of things on our plate, as well as, working from a deficit model, meaning that a lot of times whenever we make decisions, we're sacrificing from another place. It really is, taking from Peter to pay Paul. So if you do have a great idea and it doesn't translate into action, just know that, maybe it's just something that we have to sacrifice for now and, and nest until we're able to either spend time on it or spend money on it. So just know that, it doesn't have to force it. It could just be the circumstances. But moving forward, I think the main thing that really allows I to have a open conversation outside of the things that you have to establish, which is trust and fear of conflict, making sure there's no fear of conflict in conversations. It really is that Kristy comes to conversations and meetings with how things can positively impact students, with a outline of what she thinks is a process, and that it never dives away from positive impact for our students. And if your message really speaks to the impact first and supports with strategies, it really can't divulge into anything else other than this is good for kids. But then circling around, a principal is always going to consider how much resources it's going to take, both money and people power. So if the impact doesn't correlate well with the amount of resources, then it might not move forward. Going back to that deficit model that we're always facing as principals. But, not to, overcomplicate the process, it really is, those three things: student impact, strategies, and how much people power and money power it's going to take to implement. And, if we just keep those three foundations, that really is all we really consider. And final asterisk, what works with me is not going to work with every principal, but that is definitely one of the reasons why Kristy is so successful in terms of expressing her views. But also, second asterisk, that also doesn't mean that she's that successful in actually moving forward with it, because we do work in that deficit model when it comes to people and money. Okay.
All right, so we had to stop him there because he originally thought, I had to negotiate time with him so that he can get this done. So I said I was presenting on Saturday, so he's thanking us for giving up our Saturday and all of that stuff. But so we can skip that part. But, I had to get it done. So I had to negotiate a little bit, change it. He's like, when are you presenting? When do you need it by? I was like, I need it Saturday morning. And, I just left it gray. I left it great for him. But he is a great guy. I have learned a lot from him, both in how to tone myself down, how to be a little bit more tactful, and how to be okay with him saying no, that it's not going to work. Like this right now, it's not going to work. And there have been times that I have proposed things that I think is going to help for attendance. And then he says, well, didn't we try this? Didn't you have this proposal last year? And we tried this and we tried that. And I'm like, yeah, but it's different this time. And it's just like, no, it's not different. Like we need to figure this out, right? And how do we create something, systemic change, right? Through using the ASCA model and negotiating and collaborating and being partners in our school and with our teachers and our students and our and our families. And we know that we have to act as a systems change agent, right? And how do we do that? We know that we have to use data, and how do we connect with data? What works for us in terms of reading it? Like I shared before, like I'm all about just tell me the information. I'd rather not have to sit through a meeting and read the data, but sometimes I have to, right? Because you have to look at the numbers, and you have to hold people accountable, and you have to hold yourself accountable. And how do you use that data to demonstrate need, that this is important? And then how do you develop and implement a plan? And I think that is where I have struggled in my career the most, because I'm all about like, let's just do it. Let's just try it and we can work it out. And usually, when I really got involved with ASCA, I started, from the back and then moved forward. You're supposed to create a team, and you're supposed to look at data, and they have this system, and my personality didn't lend itself to that, and it's not really about, following, dotting all your I's and dotting all of your I's and crossing all of your T's, you need to have your vision and your goal and figure out how you're going to get there. And, you know, everybody doesn't have a yellow brick road, right? Mine is red, yours is yellow, someone else is green, someone else is purple. You know, as long as our end goal is to support our students and our families and our communities, we just need to figure out how we get there within our school and our systems. Because every school is different. Every administrator is different. Every district is different. You know, I am in a building with 7 other schools, and we come together, not now through COVID, but we used to come together and collaborate and do these things. And how do we work smarter and not harder, and bounce ideas off of each other? And that was a huge initiative that administrators didn't think was going to work. And super successful. Like, so many of our major events were all building wide. But all the administrators were so different. Their personalities were different. You know, I would tell my boss, we want to do this. And he's like, oh, go ahead, do it. They would be like, no, you have to write a proposal. You have to submit this. You have to submit that. So you just have to go with your flow, right? And we're going to talk about that in the next workshop. All right, so we're gonna go to the next slide and we're gonna recap. So hopefully we've covered all of these points, right? Like knowing your value, understanding your role within your own school, not only through ASCA and its framework, and their expectations of us delivering a program, but also like what service do you provide in your school? Reviewing of your data. We say it all the time. Data can be report card data. It can be, you know, whatever your district has online in terms of your school. It can be like you know, keeping track, like how many times has this student come into my office to get a snack? Or how many times did they come into my office to cry or time out? You keeping track of these little things. And someone mentioned in the chat, you know, and Lisa has brought it up before, you start small and then you work your way up to getting to where you need to go. Be prepared with answers. People are going to ask you. I used to hear it, like, what do school counselors do? Right? Are you in your office all day? I mean, I'm definitely not in my office all day because I'm never minding my business. But, you know, neither is Lisa. She's always around with little kids. But sometimes our responsibilities lend us to being in our office all day, right? That's where they put us all day long. And it's not because we don't want to be in the hallways and supporting our families and supporting our kids. It's because, you know, we haven't figured out how to manage both of them yet and have that courageous conversation with our administrators in terms of like, listen, I need to be more involved in this, that, or the other. And connects back to your stakeholders, right? Like, who are you partnering with? Who are you getting on the bus? Any questions? Oh, thanks, Veronica. Next slide.
All right, so I made this fancy thinking map. This thinking maps have been adopted by my school district, and all teachers are using thinking maps. So when the training was put out, dear teachers, we are training you on thinking maps, I went. And I want to tell all of you as counselors, you need to speak the language of your school. So if the teachers are going to be using thinking maps and I want to do social and emotional teaching lessons, then I need to know all about how kids are learning in the classroom. So here's another way to review being a systematic change maker. Know your value. Always remember, we offer such a special piece of gold that's within the school. Nobody else is doing what we do. We have our fingers on the pulse and we see what's happening, and we are changing agents. Understand what we're supposed to do and fight for what your role really is. Very often in a building, you are asked to do so many different things, and keep the data. Keep the data of how many times you did this and how many times you couldn't do this, and attach that to kids who are not achieving. And when you can show them that if you're around the school doing so many different tasks and not doing social and emotional learning and not doing what our school counselor roles are, then it will show in deficits within the population. Review the data, always look through report cards, attendance, latenesses, look for patterns. This is how you'll be a great change maker. And be prepared with answers. Figure it out before you even take it to your stakeholders. Figure out how you're going to get it done, and sometimes have one or two ideas. I'm going to share something really quickly. I was speaking with my assistant principal today, and we are noticing that bus problems, even though they're sitting 6 feet apart, the little ones coming on the bus are having a really hard time. My first idea was, I have to go to the preschool programs and teach them about riding buses in preschool. But then I'm sitting and I'm pondering with that idea. Will they let me go to preschools? What time will it take away from me being in the building? Maybe I can do a Google slide or a presentation. Maybe I can make a movie with the kids who are here now. There are so many different ways. Now that I know that my kids don't know how to ride the bus and they're hitting each other and it's becoming a danger, now I have to ponder, come up with answers, make sure it doesn't cost money and it doesn't take away from teaching time. This is how you make a change. I want my kids arriving safely. And know your stakeholders. I'll bring that to my principal because he wants the kids in school safely. So this is take this, hang it up in your office to remember the things you need to know. Oh, can I mention one more thing? I just wanted to say, join committees that are not yours. We want to be change makers and we are always asking for people to get on our bus, but guess what? You got to get on other people's buses sometimes too. So I joined literacy night, and if you need me to hang up tinfoil or make something, I'll do it. I'll join Homeschool Connection. If you need me to make phone calls, I'll do it. Because when I am willing to help other people with their missions and their advocacy and programs within school, then they'll jump on my bus as well. Sorry.
Absolutely. No, don't apologize. Absolutely. That's so important. I mean, one of the things that we had talked about, Lisa and I, is how we learned the lingo. There have been school counselors that were teachers prior and have that connection. And we're able to talk the talk and walk the walk and make those connections with teachers. But many school counselors were not teachers first. And as things have progressed, you have to know the lingo because they want, to be collaborative. They want you to be empathetic, and it's hard to be empathetic when you don't know, when you can't speak to what they're going through. Very similar to them and us. So I went to Common Core trainings when that was coming down the pipeline. I went to ESSA trainings when that was coming down the pipeline. And, I wanted to be able to speak to my colleagues in the same language that they were using so that they knew that I was aware and that I understood. And we get it. Like, we know that everybody doesn't have the time to be able to make those kinds of commitments and get that information. But that was a strategy that we used, I used and Lisa used to kind of like make our role connected to the role of the teachers so that we can all find ourselves as being stakeholders. And even within that, we know that there's going to be opportunities where things are just not going to fly. My principal said it, asterisk number 2, like just because it's coming and it's prepared and, it's well thought out and I have my bus ready and I'm on the Lisa's on the train and I'm on the bus and we're working, making things happen. Sometimes it just doesn't go, right? Or sometimes you do it and it doesn't work. You didn't accomplish what you said you were going to accomplish. You didn't raise your attendance. You didn't you didn't lower discipline issues. Sometimes that happens, and it brings us back to like, be mindful of your vision, right? Don't lose sight of it. Just because what you put together didn't work doesn't mean that it can't work with some modifications, right? Like the video in the beginning shared, right? Like, let's not make excuses about it. It didn't work. It didn't prove what it said it was going to prove. Maybe it showed different data that we can use and reflect on. But, make sure your vision is clear, right? Rinse or lather, rinse and repeat, right? Start all over, review it, have discussions. And sometimes it's just not the right thing. It's not what's going to work in your school, in your community. Oftentimes people ask me for information. Oh, can I borrow this or can I have this? When you create something with love and passion based on your data and your community, it doesn't necessarily work everywhere. Unless you're willing to take it and make adjustments, you're going to struggle. So be mindful of that, that you have to learn from your experiences, but don't let it shut you down. Don't let it shut you down because the success will be there, right? And if nothing else, even if you didn't accomplish that one goal that you set, right? It's a teachable moment, and you've learned from that. You've learned from the process, and you've learned from trying, and you've gotten people connected with you, and now you're visible. And then you can start all over, and you can figure out why that didn't work, and then move forward and make it work. All of our efforts count, all of them, every single part of it counts. We learn from it and we grow from it. Did you want to add something, Lisa?
Oh, I was just thinking, home run hitters strike out more than any other player. So just, it's not, that's just part of the game. No, and I wish I kept track of how many times I said, hey, I'm thinking. Nope, that's not going to work. Hey, I'm thinking. Nope, that's not going to work. It is just, I throw so many ideas out there. I call it going fishing, because I'm like, okay, hey, let me see if I get a bite. Nope, okay, let me try again. Go over here. Always be fishing. Always saying, okay, how about, is this something I should put my energies into? Is this something I'm putting my energies into? Like the woman from TikTok talked about. Go back, check in. This is what I'm working on. Am I going in the right direction? This is where I'd like to be. Am I going in the right direction? This is how you gain trust, and all your efforts count.
Yes. And we want you to keep in that champion mindset, right? Think like a champion. I always relate myself back to sports. And it's just like, all right, I want to be the champion in my school, my champion for my students, for my families, for my communities, for my staff, right? Sometimes I have to go advocate for my own school. Like, oh, your data doesn't look that great. That's fine, but we're doing this and we're doing that. And, we're getting better. And that's the important part. So the mindset of a champion, and many of you may have seen this video before, but we're going to share it just for a little bit. And then we're getting close to the end. So just bear with us a few more minutes. This is our buddy, Carson Biblo. Yeah, right there.
Michael Jordan has said, I've missed more than 9,000 shots, lost almost 300 games, and 26 times I've been trusted to make the game-winning shot and missed. I fail over and over and over again, and that is why I succeed. Michael Jordan is one of the most famous basketball players in the world, though he was not always a star. He didn't make his high school basketball team because he was too short and wasn't good enough. He could have quit, but instead, he had the mindset to continue and get better. He was practicing each day before most people were even out of bed. And because of this, he not only made the team the following year, but he went on to become the greatest player of all time and a true champion. The question that comes to our mind is, can we all learn to have a mindset of a champion? A mindset is a word describing how we think. There are two types of mindsets. One, a growth mindset, and two, a fixed mindset. A growth mindset is when somebody believes they can learn to be good and they can learn to get better. They are not afraid of challenges. They continue when things get hard. They know that they have put effort in to learn, and they learn from criticism. They are also inspired by people who do well. Michael Jordan has this trait, though another person with a growth mindset is The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. He was cut from the Canadian Football League early on in his career. He could have quit, but instead he worked very hard, faced many challenges, and is now a super famous movie star. One of my favorite.
Mine too.
Did you know that coaches and professional scouts look for athletes who don't just have skill? They want someone who wants to learn, who is coachable, and will give 100% effort in practices. They want someone with a growth mindset.
That's
what
good.
They don't want is somebody who thinks they are already good enough, they don't need to learn, and are not coachable. These people have a fixed mindset.
Perfect. So we want to move away from the fixed mindset. And I know that sometimes in our buildings, we go through some things, right, that put us in a place where we are just like, I can't do it anymore, or this is not going to work, or I've tried all of this. It really is difficult sometimes based on our circumstances to get to that place and continue having a growth mindset and learning from our experiences and being willing to fight through it. But I think Michael Jordan's example that that Carson shared with us is great. Like you can't give up when you have this vision and there's something that you want to accomplish. You have to continue working at it, and it's not going to be easy. It's not easy for athletes. It's not easy for other jobs. It's not easy for us. And sometimes some people make it look easier than others because of their experiences or because of their current circumstances. It all depends on the administrator that you're working with and the district that you're in, and things are different and they change. But we have to stay connected and keep having these conversations and keep reminding ourselves that we need to keep growing from our experiences and learning and educating and connecting with others. Next slide.
So here I want to talk about how time is your greatest asset. And I want you to think of your time as money. Your time is so important. You need to focus in and learn to use it wisely. This coming from a young person who started in her career. I used to have to go to the drugstore to buy clean underwear because I couldn't get to my laundry. And now I have myself organized where I can make steel oats in the crock pot for my breakfast during the school week. I have been overwhelmed. Imagine 1,000 kids. I didn't even make my bed for years because I couldn't get done what needed to get done. And that's when I really worked hard on working smart instead of working so hard that I was putting myself in the ground. Working smart is one of the best things we can do. And being organized and putting in that extra effort, just like he was saying about the athletes and the champions. Those are the people who are getting up early, who are to school first, who are not staying hours and hours and hours, but being focused when they are there. And I just want to give a little tip in terms of get done what you can ahead of time, because your plans for the school day will never work how you want them to. And if you are planning to prepare your lesson before you go to do it in school, it's never going to happen. You have to have your lessons ready, everything prepared before you walk in the door, because as soon as you walk in the door, the problems are there. So if you're prepared, if you have a lesson at 12 o'clock, you have to be ready at 8 o'clock before you walk in the door. And as you train yourself and you put yourself in the priorities to get things done before you walk into school, your school day will go smoother and be better, because fighting for time is what we are always doing. The thing about teaching is you have units of learning and then it's done. What we do goes on and on and on and on and on. We have a to-do list, a to-get-to list, and a finish list, and it's very stressful. And part of staying at peace with yourself is coming with game on, and that's using your time wisely.
And Tara brought up a very good point in terms of time. How do you manage that in this remote world?
Oh,
where I know that for myself, there was a time last semester where my day just didn't end. It just didn't end. It just kept on and on because of circumstances, because the students couldn't log on, and because the parents didn't get home until a certain time, because the Wi-Fi was down. And then it just kept going. And I said, if I don't answer this call, if I don't connect with this student, I may never connect with them again.
Mm-hmm. It was a very hard time for all of us.
Yes. And then, but you have to draw a line, right? You have to figure out where is your limit, right? Because self-care is so, so important. And time has to be allocated for self-care.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned that from Lisa through our process of working together, where I'm like, oh, can we meet at 7? And she's like, no, I'm running at 7. I'm like, oh, okay. But I appreciated that because she was consistent and she didn't break her routine. And then that put me in a mindset of like, okay, I need to create my own routines where, in the morning I have to get up and I have to do this and I have to do that. And I have to be consistent with what it is that I'm going to do. And I have to have my follow through. So my young people get me through Hangouts, and they get me through Google Voice, and they're texting all hours of the night. And, if I get up and I see it, I can text them back. If I don't, I don't, but I'm not having a conversation, and I'm not putting in the same level of effort that I would during the day. You have to know your limit, and you have to be mindful of that. And you have to be okay with saying, I have to get back to this tomorrow, because, if you are not well and you are not managing your time, you're going to lose sight of what your goals are and how you're supporting your kids. And it's going to become just chaotic. So you want to keep your boundaries. Yeah. Super, super important. I mean, I shared this before in our last session, but, I use Calendly, and that really, really helps. Because sometimes what I just do is I just reach out to a student, so like, make an appointment with me on Calendly. So that holds them accountable, and then they can't feel like they can just reach out to me whenever they want, for something simple. Like if it's an emergency, we'll figure that out, but be mindful of that. Tara, thank you for bringing that point up. So we're getting to our next slide. And
yeah. So we are hoping our whole voice is inspiration. Our whole presentation is wanting you to feel like, I can be a change maker. I can do this. These are the steps. So where are you today? We are hoping that we have everybody at least on I want to do it. So we are hoping to hear what you are inspired to do.
So what have we inspired you to do, if anything? We won't get offended if you say nothing. We won't take it personal. We've been there.
No, we'll rewash, rinse, lather, and try again.
Absolutely.
That's what we'll do.
We try to practice what we preach.
That's
Absolutely.
it. Oh, there you go.
Yes.
And there's a lot of things in the Ask a manuals about that. Start. I love start.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I love in the chat, keep pushing for collaboration.
Yes.
Thinking more about working smartly. Oh, they got your leverage leadership, Kristy.
I love that book.
That's awesome.
Leverage is so important.
Oh, I love throw ideas out there. That's like fishing. Go fishing.
Yes. And yes, know that you're going to make mistakes and be okay with that. No one's harder on ourselves, like I said before, than ourselves, right? Like we are our harshest critics.
Yeah.
And just be harsh on yourself and keep it moving, right? And just start all over.
I like how someone put, talk to my principal. Kristy's principal will be going to the bathroom.
I know. That's my time. That's my time to get him. I'm like, oh, have a minute to chat. And he's like, yeah, I'm on my, he'll knock on the door. I'm on my way to the bathroom. You want to walk with me? That's my elevator pitch right there, while he's walking.
I yell out the door, I need you, when he's walking by.
Yeah. But we weren't always there, right? We had to grow to that place.
Absolutely.
That relationship. And I think that Mr. Liu mentioned it,
I love
it's about trust. It really, really is about building that trust. And you build that trust by keeping your administrators informed.
I love some YC put to create a roadmap of where I want my counseling program to go. I love that. Set the vision, see it, and then put the steps and keep at it. Oh, I love that. Solve my boss's problems. Explain and inform why. I love it.
And the learning teaching methods, I will share. I haven't found, and I can't speak for every school, of course, but my colleagues, they're always open for me to co-facilitate. If I can push in and do an SEL lesson with an activity that they already have planned, and I can co-facilitate, or they will help me while I'm facilitating, it really has helped me sharpen my skills and be better prepared. Because I'll write a lesson, but then I'm going to go in there and I'm just going to do what I feel like doing. And that wasn't the way that it was supposed to be, right? But I learned that through working with my colleagues. One
moment at a time.
Yes. Boundaries, so important. Self-reflection. Yes.
Be more vocal. Having those hard conversations are tough. Find your voice. Find the way to say it.
Yes, absolutely.
I love knowing you can try again tomorrow. I love that. SelfCare.
I love the stop whining. That's like my stop with the excuses. Like it happens, it is what it
Oh, excuses. Yeah.
Yes. I always have to figure out how to work through it. And for those of you who have been through several administrators, you know that that is huge, huge adjustments that you have to make because it all depends on what their values are.
And YC just put or try again next year, and understand that sometimes when you're looking at data, you're looking at last year's data, thinking at ideas this year, and then putting it in place the third year away. Sometimes change takes a lot of time when you're gathering and making goals.
Yeah, absolutely. It does not happen overnight.
No.
And you need to be okay with that. You absolutely need to be okay with that. Accept feedback, yeah.
And I think I just wanted to say this during the presentation. I'm glad I remembered to. Being part of NISCA, being part of a group of people who are like-minded will help give you feedback. And that's one of the really important reasons to join NISCA, to join your local counseling associations, because we are our own unique group of people. We are our own tribe. And so we need to talk to each other for feedback, for inspiration. Nobody really understands it except for us. And that's why it's so important for us to get together and speak to each other. I like finishing small projects. That's awesome. Use time wisely. This is great.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we've created a little inspiration, Kristy.
I hope so.
I follow you anywhere. I'm on your train. I'm on your bus. I'm on your train.
Awesome.
Wherever you go.
Thank you. Thank you. And just for the record, Lisa and I just started working together. So, you know, this is not years of collaborating and coming together, but it's also we're like-minded, right? And we have the same kind of work ethic and knew how to adjust and be flexible. And we had planned times to meet and we couldn't because life happened. And you know, we just know that's how things happen. But someone shared a question with me directly, and I just want to pose it. I asked them permission, but I don't know if I missed it or not. But how did I become involved with doing lessons, co-facilitating with teachers? And one is I learned the lingo. That was super important. So I already had the lingo, but I went to a workshop. I don't remember if it was NISCA or if it was ASCA. And someone presented on how they were doing that in their school, because teachers were very, very resistant of giving up classroom instruction time, and they wouldn't allow them to push in. So this presenter figured out a way, the school counselor figured out a way and connecting. And what they did was, since their curriculum maps or their lesson plans or whatever had to be done like a week in advance, I don't remember her exact strategy, but she said, oh, I can push into this. I can push into this area. And I can, we're talking about healthy relationships. And I did this once and I shared with my colleagues on Romeo and Juliet. And talking about healthy relationships and how do I push into that so that I'm co-facilitating getting what I need to get done, but also supporting the teacher at the same time. And that's building trust and that's building relationships. But I did learn it from a workshop. That's usually where I either purchase it or learn it through experience. I'm all about that. Awesome. I'm sorry, Gloria, go ahead. I can keep
No, we're just, it's always hard to bring these things to a close because there's always so much more. I just wanted to call everyone's attention to the next 3 sessions that are coming up, 2 in March and 1 in April. And the next one will be focused on roles and the MTSS tiered approach. So we hope you'll join us for that. But then also for today's use, it's important if you're not all that familiar with the ASCA national model and the ethical standards, we do have a link here for you. And I just wanted to show you where everything is being housed. The link that will be in the PowerPoint. This is the Google Drive that has the all the different handouts that we used today. So we hope that you will make good use of that. You can always find the Champ Camp resources on the NISCA webpage at nisca.org/champcamp2 from all of the sessions. So you'll find the first one, the second one, and the additional ones as they come. You will be receiving an email with a certificate of attendance and also a very short feedback form that we really do want to hear from you. It helps us not only know how well we hit the mark today, but also as we plan for future programs. It really does direct what we will be offering next as we look down the road. And if you haven't checked out NISCA's YouTube channel, you really must. There's a lot of good things there. We do record most of our presentations and house them there so that they can be viewed again and again. So if you've missed something, you really haven't missed something, you can go check it out.
Awesome.
And I'm going to let Kristy take us out with
this is
the first words, the last words, the best words.
Yes, and I learned this from an administrator. I also learned this at a workshop one time, and so when I saw this and I saw the video, and and I used it often, especially with my student athletes. I always connect that to their education. Like, you are a student first, and then you're an athlete. Like, always remember that, a student first. And I don't want to hear excuses. Like, it just happens. I don't want the excuses. It happened. Let's move forward. Let's, your voice, what you share is, it can be creative, and it is creative. It could be a weapon, right? In a positive way or in a negative way. But it's not a tool for excuses. So we want to move away from that, and we just want to learn from our experiences, and not point the finger and not blame anyone, not blame the world, and just say, like, okay, we learned from this. It didn't work. This is how I know it's going to work the next time around. And you just take that and you learn from it. And maybe your idea was amazing, but the wrong people were on the bus. So, you just wait for the next bus, and you just get people ready to rock and roll with that. And we're good. So we're here. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate that. We're always happy to provide feedback, and you're going to get the information. And we appreciate all of you. So I hope that we've inspired you to start something new.
Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you taking your time and helping us to really look at what matters in our hearts. And what does matter most is helping others. That's why we do what we do. So thank you for this opportunity.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your great workshop. You guys did an amazing job. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a
Thanks,
good time.
Jonathan. Thank you.
Gloria, can someone speak about the certificates? There was a couple comments on people hadn't received their certificates from the first training.
I can. I sent them out the day after the training to everybody who attended.
Yeah, I received mine. Maybe some emails are off or something.
Yeah, there were a couple, but not many. If just email me if you need a certificate of attendance from the first one. But I only sent them to the people who actually attended.
Okay.
And I will do that for this one tomorrow morning.
Okay, so Kristen, can you put his email in the chat?
Oh, yeah. I'll do it.
In the chat. So email Bob.
Hey, Ray.
Yeah, when in doubt, info@nisca.org always works.
It gets to me too.
It's only like who logged in on the Zoom, I think, is our attendance sheet.
Yes.
That's it.
It's a survey that you're going to receive.
No, we get a report from Zoom. This shows us exactly who was here.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's who gets certificates of attendance.
Great job, you guys. Lots of really great feedback in there about they're ready to start their day. So well done.
Thank you, Kristen.
Have an amazing night, an amazing week, a happy Lunar New Year. Super excited about that. I hope everyone enjoyed their school counselor week.
Mm-hmm.
And we're celebrated. So.
And if you're interested in NISCA leadership, we have a meeting this Thursday at 5:30. We had 30 people sign up for it already. So
great.
On behalf of the Professional Development Committee, thanks for coming tonight.
Yes. Paulette, you have your hands up. Did you want to say something?
Unmute. Her hand up and left.
Maybe it was an accident. That's fine. Just wanted to give her.
Angela's saying she received the survey, but not the certificate.
Okay.
Email me, I'll send it.
Yeah.
Can you speak real quickly about the NISCA leadership meeting? What is that about?
We're doing a little presentation on about NISCA leadership because our elections are coming up, and we have openings in various regions and for various jobs. And we're also going to talk a lot about the different committees you can join. It's not going to last very long. It's being done by our past president, who's in charge of elections, as well as our president-elect, who's Mark Mason, who's going to be president next year.
And how do they sign up for it, Bob?
We sent an email this morning to everyone with a registration form if you're a member of NISCA. If you'd like the invite for that, email me as well, and I'll make sure you get that as well.
Can you put his email in the chat again, Kristen?
I just did.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Because I'm on the chat and I don't see it.
it's info@nisca.org.
All right.
It'll get to me.
Putting info.
Someday, Bob, you should have one that's just Bob.
Yeah. No, that info@nisca.org is just kind of like Bob.
Bob is one letter shorter. So.
Okay.
You guys, great job. Have a